Something strange is happening inside the Baltimore Ravens organization. And it's not just the losing streak. It's not just the poor defensive numbers. It's not even the inconsistent offensive line play. What's really starting to make noise is what's going on behind the scenes, in the locker room, in the culture, and in the decision-making at the top. And a lot of that has come to light because of a bombshell article that dropped recently in the Baltimore Sun. A report loaded with anonymous quotes from current and former players, team staff, and individuals close to the organization. And let's be honest, when a story like that gets published, it's a clear sign that things are boiling over. According to the report, after the Ravens dropped their Week 4 matchup against the Chiefs, not after they started 1-5, mind you, but right after that specific game, the coaching staff decided to make a controversial move. They stripped the locker room of every recreational activity the players used to unwind. Gone were the ping-pong tables. Gone were the video game consoles. The basketball hoop? Removed. Cornhole boards? Packed up. The message was loud and clear: no more fun. It was time to lock in. But here's the thing, it backfired. Big time. The logic behind the decision, at least from the coaching staff's perspective, was to eliminate distractions and recalibrate the team's focus. The idea was, if you're losing, you shouldn't be laughing, relaxing, or kicking back after practice. But that mindset ignores something crucial about NFL locker rooms. These guys spend hours, every day, grinding through film, practice, and physical therapy. Those moments of downtime. That's where chemistry is built. That's where bonds form. That's where a group of athletes under immense pressure gets to breathe for a second and just be human. And according to multiple players who spoke to The Sun, removing those activities didn't make the team more focused. It just made things more miserable. It killed the vibe. It made showing up feel like a chore. One player even said, "Now we just show up to work and go home. That's it." And since that decision was made, the Ravens dropped 2 more games. So, not only did the tactic fail to produce results on the field, it may have actually made things worse off it. What's even more troubling is the timing of the report. Over 25 sources were reportedly consulted for the article. That kind of mass participation from inside the building is rare, and it signals a serious disconnect between the coaching staff and the players. Normally, when things are going well, or even if they're just stable, players aren't running to journalists to vent. The fact that they're doing that now tells us everything we need to know. The locker room isn't just frustrated. It's fractured. And look, let's make one thing clear. The Ravens' problems are not about ping pong, or cornhole, or video games. That's not why this team is 1-5. It's not why they're dead last in points allowed. It's not why their defense ranks near the bottom in passing and rushing touchdowns given up. It's not why they're struggling to create turnovers, get to the quarterback, or protect Lamar Jackson. The real issues are tactical, structural, personnel-based. But when the coaching staff decides to crack down on distractions, instead of addressing the real football problems, it looks like they're pointing the finger everywhere, but at themselves. And it's not the first time something like this has happened under John Harbaugh. According to the report, the Ravens have used similar tactics in past seasons when things started to slide. Locking down the locker room, tightening the leash. But what has that actually fixed? This time, it hasn't fixed anything, and the numbers prove it. Since removing those distractions, the team's record has only gotten worse. And now, the Ravens aren't just losing games. They're becoming a national story for all the wrong reasons. Even former NFL players are calling them out. Kurt Benkert, a former quarterback, weighed in on social media, saying, "That's one way to lose a locker room. If you think downtime activities are the problem, you've got to zoom out and look in the mirror as a coach." And he's absolutely right. Because when players feel like they're being punished, not coached, that's when trust starts to erode. That's when leadership becomes control. And when leadership turns into control, players check out. It's all about optics. And right now, the optics for the Ravens are brutal. You've got anonymous players slamming coaching decisions. You've got a team spiraling with no clear answers. You've got young stars like Zay Flowers, who after a crushing loss to the Rams, skipped out on post-game media obligations. Now, to his credit, Flowers did apologize later and owned up to his mistake. He said it wouldn't happen again, and that's a good sign from a young player. But it's also another symptom of what's happening behind the scenes: frustration, disappointment, and a culture where even the most basic expectations are falling apart. And the leadership vacuum doesn't stop there. Because it's not just rookies avoiding the media. Veteran leaders like Roquan Smith, guys who are supposed to set the tone for the locker room, have also dodged accountability after losses. And when that becomes the norm, it trickles down to the rest of the roster. Suddenly, younger players are left to face the music while the veterans duck the spotlight. And that's a reflection not just on the individuals, but on the leadership from the top down. Meanwhile, the problems on the field are piling up. The defense is bleeding points. The offensive line is crumbling. And the one guy who's always been able to mask those deficiencies, Lamar Jackson, is getting no help. Qadry Ismail, a former Ravens wideout, made a great point recently. He said, Lamar shouldn't have to wear the Superman cape every single snap. He should pick when to put it on, not be forced to save the team every down. And that's the reality. Lamar has been covering for this team's issues for years. But now the cracks are too big for even him to patch over. And the offensive line? It's a mess. Right guard Daniel Falale has struggled all season. He's been inconsistent in pass protection and a liability in the run game. And while he's not the only problem, the entire line has had issues. He's become the face of a deeper issue: the Ravens' failure to build reliable depth. Injuries have piled up. Players have underperformed. And the coaching staff has stuck by their guys, even when those guys have clearly not gotten the job done. It's loyalty to a fault. It's John Harbaugh 101. Because if there's one thing Harbaugh is known for, it's sticking with his players. Sometimes that's a good thing, but other times, like now, it's costing the team wins. Harbaugh guys don't lose their jobs easily. And players in his doghouse, they barely see the field. It's a pattern that's been discussed for years. But when you're 1-5, when your quarterback is getting battered, and when your offense can't function, something has to change. And sticking with the same struggling starters isn't the answer. Coming out of the bye week, there was an opportunity, a perfect opportunity, to make adjustments, to shuffle the offensive line, to try different combinations. Instead, nothing changed. Harbaugh said all options were on the table, but then left the table exactly the way it was. And that sends a message that either the staff doesn't trust the backups, or worse, they're unwilling to admit the original plan didn't work. And that's dangerous, because when a coaching staff becomes so loyal to their system, their starters, and their beliefs that they ignore what's happening on the field, it's the team that suffers. You can't keep running out the same 5 offensive linemen and expecting different results. You can't pretend like locker room tension isn't real. You can't act like removing a ping pong table is going to magically turn around a season. Right now, the Ravens are a team trying to find an identity. But instead of addressing the real football problems, the missed assignments, the poor tackling, the lack of pass rush, the busted protections, they're clamping down on fun and calling it accountability. And that's the kind of culture that doesn't build champions. It builds resentment. It builds apathy. And if the Ravens don't change course soon, they won't just lose games. They'll lose the locker room entirely. The offensive line problems aren't new for the Ravens, but what's shocking is how little has been done to fix them, especially when everyone can see what's going wrong. This isn't about nitpicking a unit that's playing at a decent level. No, this group is sinking the offense, and it's been happening since week 1. Everyone knew coming into the season that the guard position was going to be an issue, yet the Ravens rolled the dice with inexperienced players and are now watching it blow up in real time. Daniel Falale has been the center of that conversation. Week after week, he's getting beat. He's missing blocks. He's failing to anchor. And somehow, he's still starting. Why? Because it seems like Falale is one of John Harbaugh's guys. And in Baltimore, that means something. It means you get more chances than you probably deserve. It means your leash is longer than anyone else's. And when it comes time to make tough decisions, the coaching staff might just look the other way. Meanwhile, other players, like Ben Cleveland, seem to live in Harbaugh's doghouse and can't get a single break, even when the guy ahead of them is clearly struggling. It's favoritism at the highest level, and it's hurting this team. Falale isn't the only one struggling. Ronnie Stanley has looked like a shell of his former self, injured, inconsistent, and not the dominant tackle the Ravens once paid him to be. Roger Rosengarten, another tackle, has also regressed. Tyler Linderbaum has probably been the best of the group, but when you're surrounded by breakdowns on both sides, it's hard to shine. Andrew Voorhees had one of his better games recently against the Rams, but the inconsistency across the board has made it impossible for the offense to build momentum. It's a unit-wide problem, and yet, somehow, the staff keeps treating it like a minor inconvenience. PFF's positional rankings, for what they're worth, back up what fans have been seeing on Sundays. Falale is ranked 45th among guards. Voorhees is at number 40. Rosengarten sits at 38th among tackles. These aren't just bad numbers. They're bottom of the barrel, and they tell the story of an offensive line that can't protect its quarterback or establish a run game. You can't run Derrick Henry effectively when defenders are in the backfield before the handoff. You can't unleash Lamar Jackson when he's being chased from the snap. And yet, here we are. After the Rams game, John Harbaugh said, "Everything is on the table," when asked about the offensive line. But actions speak louder than words, and since then, there's been no change. No rotation. No benching. Nothing. And it's not like the options behind the starters are perfect. Ben Cleveland, Corey Bullock, even undrafted guys, they all come with risk. But at least trying something would show the team that the coaching staff sees the problem and is willing to act. Right now, it just feels like more denial. There's also this stubborn idea that maybe things will just fix themselves. That Falale will suddenly figure it out. That Stanley will get healthier. That Linderbaum can carry the whole interior on his back. But what has that blind hope led to? A 1-5 record, an offense that can't stay on the field, and a franchise quarterback under constant pressure. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. And that's exactly what the Ravens are doing with their offensive line. Even in the offseason, the writing was on the wall. The moment they let Patrick Mekari walk, alarm bells should have gone off. Mekari wasn't elite, but he could play all 5 positions on the line and mask a lot of the Ravens' depth issues. Losing him and not replacing that kind of versatility has come back to haunt this team. The line is paper thin, and there's no safety net. One injury throws everything off. One bad matchup turns into a disaster. And that's exactly what we've seen so far. And while Falale has become the symbol of this failure, it's not really about him. It's about what his continued presence in the starting lineup represents. A refusal to adapt. A refusal to admit mistakes. A loyalty to our guys that overrides logic. And that's dangerous, because the NFL doesn't care about loyalty. It cares about wins. And right now, the Ravens aren't getting them. Fans have been begging for change, and it's not just noise. It's not just emotional reactions. It's coming from a place of watching the same mistakes happen week after week and knowing they're avoidable. At some point, sticking with the status quo becomes an insult to the players who are performing, to the fans who are watching, and to the quarterback who's putting his body on the line every single snap. Before we dive in, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Your support keeps us bringing you the latest news on the Baltimore Ravens. And hey, drop your take in the comments below. We want to hear from the flock. A storm seems to be brewing in Baltimore, and it's centered around one of the NFL's most formidable running backs. Derrick Henry, the powerhouse back of the Ravens, is reportedly growing increasingly frustrated with the team's quarterback situation. Sources close to the locker room have whispered that Henry has made it clear he refuses to continue playing alongside Cooper Rush. While official statements from the Ravens have been limited to the usual "we support our players" lines, the tension is reportedly palpable. Henry, known for his punishing runs and game-changing presence, has never been shy about his opinions when it comes to team performance. Cooper Rush, who has had flashes of competence under center, apparently does not inspire the same confidence from Henry as the franchise hoped. The murmurs began quietly after a string of games where the offense seemed unable to capitalize on Henry's talent, and they've only intensified after practice sessions in which teammates reportedly noticed visible frustration from the star running back. If true, the implications for Baltimore are enormous. The Ravens have invested heavily in Henry's future, and a player of his caliber openly questioning the quarterback pairing is a situation rarely seen in the NFL. While Cooper Rush has proven himself capable in certain moments, the dynamic between quarterback and running back is delicate, and insiders suggest that Henry's patience may have reached its limit. Sources claim the team is now scrambling behind the scenes to manage the situation before it becomes a public spectacle. Fans have taken to social media, dividing almost immediately into camps of support and skepticism. Some argue that Henry's stance is justified, pointing to the missed opportunities and underwhelming offensive performances this season. Others caution that the rumor may be exaggerated, framing it as typical NFL locker room heat that never translates into action. Regardless, the buzz around the Ravens' locker room has created a storm of speculation, with analysts already debating trade scenarios, quarterback adjustments, and even the possibility of Henry seeking an exit if the current setup remains unchanged. For now, all eyes remain on Baltimore. Practices are being watched more closely than ever, and every interaction between Henry and Rush is being dissected by fans and insiders alike. One thing seems certain. If this story holds even a kernel of truth, the Ravens may be facing one of the most dramatic internal conflicts in recent franchise history. The NFL rumor mill is alive, and Derrick Henry's apparent ultimatum could reshape Baltimore's season, or perhaps even its future. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay in the loop with exclusive news on our Baltimore Ravens, make sure to subscribe and hit that like button. We'd love to hear what the flock thinks. Drop your thoughts in the comments. See you in the next one.